Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Joe the Lawyer. I'm your host, Joe Pometto, Joe the Lawyer. Today, we are going to review some news, a story out of my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, of a judge who allegedly called a juror, Aunt Jemima, off the bench in Pennsylvania. So this particular judge, Judge Mark Tranquilli, I've practiced before him. I know him. I had a little bit of hesitance on whether to do a video on a story that came out of the legal community in Pittsburgh because I know many of the people, the judges, the attorneys in the legal community in Pittsburgh. I've decided to sort of veer away from them. At least for now, I don't know. But I may go into them more in the future. Anyways, I wanted to touch on this story because it has gone national, okay? It's all over the news. It's been on the national news, everything. So it's unavoidable at this point. I also think I can provide some insight to whoever is interested in this story or wants to learn about it. So we're going to read through the article, and then I'm going to give you my personal insights, give you some more news that's developed on this, give you my experiences with this Judge Tranquilli. Hopefully we all learn something from this transaction here. Before I get into the article, if you like my channel, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. All of those ways tell YouTube that you're watching. YouTube gives me higher rankings, gives me positive feedback. It's a free and low labor way to support the show. Also, I have an email list. Sign up for my email list. You'll get a PDF on what to do when stopped by the police from Joe Pometto, practicing criminal defense attorney. And I will send you other free stuff. If you don't like the emails, you just unsubscribe. So this story began to develop early in February, and it's a judge who allegedly called a juror, Aunt Jemima, off the bench in Pennsylvania. The judge allegedly told a prosecutor that he should not have allowed Aunt Jemima onto a jury that acquitted an accused drug dealer. So the story starts, a Pittsburgh judge was removed from the bench. It's not entirely accurate. I'll explain that. After allegedly using a racial slur in describing an African-American female juror. Allegheny County Common Pleas Court Judge Mark Tranquilli has been temporarily reassigned to perform administrative duties only, effective immediately, according to an order Thursday by that court's president, Judge Kim Berkeley Clark. And this article is from February 7th. This was a few weeks ago. Judge Tranquilli shall not preside over any cases during this assignment. So he wasn't technically removed from the bench. And aside here, he was reassigned. So he's still a judge. One thing to understand is in Pennsylvania, likely most states, judges are elected officials. They actually have to be impeached by the state legislature and then voted to be removed from office. It's a difficult process, as we all seen from the national impeachment. Opinions on that aside. Regardless, Tranquilli made the remark, the Aunt Jemima remark, in January, according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. A suspect had just been acquitted on the charge of possession of drugs with intent to deliver after being convicted earlier on simple possession. Tranquilli called defense lawyer Joe Oddie and assistant district attorney Ted Dutkowski into his chambers, where he accused the prosecutor of not doing an adequate job screening potential jurors and allowing a black female juror he referred to as Aunt Jemima onto the panel, according to a complaint filed with the Judicial Conduct Board of Pennsylvania. Just so you know, the Judicial Conduct Board is a board of appointees, attorneys, former judges, etc. They look over all the conduct of lawyers and judges in the state, the whole state, okay? They have a lot of power. They play a role. They keep these people in line. They enforce the ethical rules. The judge then said that Ted had made a terrible decision by allowing Aunt Jemima onto the jury, according to the complaint filed by Oddie. The juror was a young black woman who had worn a hair wrap throughout the trial. The judge complained about other jurors before the conversation returned to Aunt Jemima, as he again referred to her, the complaint said. Judge Tranquilli asserted that he knows that her baby daddy probably sells heroin and that her presumed bias in favor of the heroin dealers had caused or contributed to the not guilty verdict, the complaint said. Audie and a spokesman for the Allegheny County District Attorney both declined comment on the matter. On Friday, Tranquilli did not immediately return messages seeking his comment on Friday. Aunt Jemima is a character from late 19th century minstrel shows based on stereotypical images of black female slaves. It's generally considered sexist and racist, though the term and image remains the brand name of a popular pancake batter and syrup. I'll be honest, I didn't know the roots of Aunt Jemima. That is kind of gross. And, it's a little weird that it's still a brand for batter and syrup, though I don't know. So Allegheny County Bar Association President Lori McMaster said her organization stands behind any efforts to eliminate implicit and explicit racial bias in our legal system. As such, the ACBA, they're the local bar association, is demanding a complete investigation by the Judicial Conduct Board of Judge Tranquilli's alleged communications to ensure this matter receives prompt attention and a just resolution. Judge Tranquilli's seat on the Allegheny County Common Pleas Court is an elected position. 4 judges were elected to that bench in 2013, with Tranquilli running as both a Democrat and Republican, winning election with the most votes. That's common practice in Pennsylvania. You run as a Democrat and a Republican. There's different rules for judicial elections. I know some other states, the judges are appointed. Here in PA, they're elected. Okay, so what happened is when this report first went to the Judicial Conduct Board and then became public, first, Judge Tranquilli was reassigned to summary appeals, which is just a place where judges hear over minor cases. Then the president judge, Judge Clark, decided to put him on administrative duty only, which is, my understanding, is where he is now. His cases were reassigned. A subsequent story came out saying that another judge, Judge Cashman, reviewed some of the cases that he had done and was releasing some of the people that he had put in jail on probation violations. Now, I believe that likely has more to do with the difference in judicial philosophy from Judge Cashman and Judge Tranquilli, rather than Judge Tranquilli putting people in jail on a racial bias basis. However, what backs me up on this is after all this occurred, the Pennsylvania Sentencing Commission did a review of Tranquilli's sentencing to see if he had shown racial bias in his sentencing, and they concluded that he did not. I will put that article in here. There's some weird things that show up in the racial makeup of how judges in Allegheny County sentence white people. It seems that certain black offenders actually get sentenced lesser in certain circumstances than white people, but then more in other circumstances. It's kind of weird. I don't know if it says that there's no racial bias. You can read that article below. So he's currently on administrative duty. This blew up pretty fast. I know one of the attorneys involved in this, Mr. Audie. Personally, he's a very honorable guy. I believe it took a lot of courage for him to come forward with this statement. I will reserve the fact to state that from as far as I know, these are allegations, okay, but, 2 attorneys said that this was what was said. The president judge went and took action. I'm not going to speak on what President Judge Clark did as far as her punishments for Mr. Tranquilli. She put him in administrative, okay, there may be more to come. I'm not in a position to really make that kind of decision. What I will say, though, is especially, anywhere in the country, okay, but Allegheny County, there's a larger black population here. It's hard when a story like this has come out for Judge Tranquilli to really practice and hear cases in Allegheny County because there's always going to be a question as to whether there's some sort of racial bias. So it's really damaged the trust within the community here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward with Mr. Tranquilli. I will state that I've practiced before Judge Tranquilli before, And I never saw any racial bias when he was up there on the bench and I was down there representing my clients. I would say that he was a bit long-winded. However, every case that I did before him, he came across as fair and reasonable. Me and the district attorney, I only had a couple cases before him. We worked them all out. He went forward with our pleas, how we designed the pleas. And again, he'd be long-winded up there. He'd like to tell a speech. I think that's common with newer judges. The judge has been there for a long time. They reserve the speeches for maybe special circumstances. He liked to tell speeches, okay, and be heard. So it would be a little long up there. But every time I saw him, it was always fair and reasonable. What I will also say is I have never, I've been practicing for 6 years. I've never heard a judge, I can say without a doubt, I've never heard a judge say anything like this or anything even close to this. It's interesting. This occurred in chambers, so behind closed doors. As attorneys, we're back there with judges. Not that often. I might have a chamber procedure, proceeding with a judge maybe once every 2 weeks in the course of my practice. Some attorneys may be back there more. I've never heard a judge say anything like this. I've practiced before black and white judges, and in my own practice, I haven't seen any racial disparity, though you can see in sentencing as a whole on the country, there are issues with black defendants being sentenced harsher than white defendants, and I think those are issues that this country needs to work out, and it's things that we really need to look hard at the criminal justice system to make sure that everybody is treated fairly based on their conduct, not based on how they look. Overall, this is a sad story. I don't like that it happened. I feel bad for sort of everyone involved because, those two attorneys in the room were put into an awkward position. I hope that the legal community in Pittsburgh, but the country as a whole, learns from this. I hope that Judge Tranquilli learns from this. I can say, again, the two attorneys who sort of outed this, it took a lot of courage for them to make this move. So hopefully, again, there can be some healing and we can move forward as a whole. But this this story went national. It was all over the news. The news grabs on flashy stuff, the Aunt Jemima comment. I don't know. But it is a big deal. And again, I hope that everybody can learn from this. And I hope our legal community here in Pittsburgh becomes better ultimately because of it. So if there's other news stories that you guys want me to cover, go ahead, drop them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed my take on this, me bringing this news to you. I'm a practicing attorney. I'm a lawyer. I got a legal perspective. So it's a little bit of a different spin than watching a newscaster talk about this. If you like my channel, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Also, sign up for my email list. You'll get a free PDF on what to do when pulled over by the police. This is Joe the Lawyer out.